When Earth's mightiest heroes face a cosmic threat, they uncover shocking secrets about their own origins and their link to an ancient alien warlord. As Superman, Thor, Iron Man, and Wolverine unite to stop a rising power, they realize they're not just protecting Earth. They are the key to saving the entire multiverse. With every fight, new powers awaken, and dark prophecies surface. Could the heroes' greatest strength also be their biggest weakness? As betrayal strikes from within their own ranks, the team must decide. Can they trust each other long enough to stop Thanos before it's too late? In a battle that will shake the very fabric of reality, the heroes will have to face their destiny. But only one can rise victorious in this war for the multiverse. The awakening signal. The sky over Metropolis was streaked with the colors of a setting sun, but inside the bustling SDR labs, there was little time for rest. Superman, his red cape fluttering behind him as he walked briskly through the corridor, exchanged a glance with Thor, who stood beside him, his hammer Mjolnir glowing faintly in his grasp. The air was charged with tension. They had just finished a training session, pushing their physical limits as usual, but there was a strange feeling in the air. Something unspoken, something they couldn't quite put their finger on. Tony Stark, ever the busy genius, was at his workstation, surrounded by multiple holographic screens, each showing different data streams. "It's a signal again," Tony muttered, his eyes narrowing as he ran a scan across the complex waveform. "It's not like anything we've ever encountered." "What are you talking about?" Superman's voice was calm, but laced with an underlying concern. "A signal from deep space," Tony replied, his fingers flying over the holographic controls. "It's been disrupting our communications systems for days, but I think I've finally tracked it." Iron Man turned to face the rest of the group, his face serious for once. "It's an anomaly, a pattern that repeats itself, but it's too precise, too deliberate." Thor's brows furrowed. "And what does this signal mean?" "I'm not sure yet, but I've been decoding the patterns. The signal is older than anything I've seen, possibly older than our universe itself." "It's a warning or a beacon," Tony said, his voice tight with growing unease. Superman stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the data floating in the air. "We need to investigate." And so, the heroes, each with their own unique powers, came together to solve the mystery of the signal. Their first destination, the Arctic, a place where the Earth's secrets sometimes hid in plain sight beneath layers of ice and rock. But as they journeyed north, the quiet tension between them began to build. None of them spoke about it, but they all sensed the same thing. Something was coming. As they arrived at the site, Tony began to scan the coordinates, revealing a hidden underground complex buried beneath a glacier. The signal was coming from there, and it wasn't natural. Superman, Thor, and Iron Man descended into the depths, their footsteps echoing through the vast tunnels that stretched out like an alien labyrinth. "Tony, any intel on who built this place?" Superman asked, scanning the walls for any familiar signs of technology. But there was nothing Earth had ever seen before. "Not sure yet, but it's got a similar signature to the alien artifacts we've seen before, Kryptonian tech, but not Kryptonian," Tony responded, his voice tinged with disbelief. As they ventured deeper into the facility, the air grew colder, more oppressive, as though something ancient and powerful was awakening. They found themselves in a massive chamber, its walls covered with symbols that none of them could decipher. A strange, otherworldly hum filled the air as the holographic screens flickered to life, revealing an alien history, a story of civilizations long forgotten and wars that stretched across galaxies. Then, at the center of the room, a pedestal rose from the ground, holding a glowing, pulsating orb. It radiated energy that felt almost alive, its brightness lighting up the chamber. Iron Man's scanners went haywire as the device seemed to react to their presence. "What is it?" Thor asked, his grip tightening around Mjolnir. "I don't know," Tony said, clearly baffled. "But I think we've just uncovered something big, a relic from an ancient civilization." Superman stepped forward cautiously. "We need to be careful. This could be dangerous." But before he could react, the orb flared, sending a shock wave through the chamber. A distorted voice boomed through the room, causing the walls to tremble. You have awakened the Ascendant. The voice was deep, commanding, with an unnatural resonance that rattled their bones. The orb pulsed again, this time sending a violent energy wave that knocked them all off their feet. What the hell was that? Wolverine's voice cut through the disorienting hum. The lights flickered back on, and suddenly, a hologram sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed a tall, imposing figure cloaked in shadow. His eyes were cold, calculating, and utterly without mercy. He was a warlord, and from the way the image flickered, it was clear this was no mere recording. This was a message sent across the stars, an announcement that echoed through the ages. "I am Thanos," the figure said, his voice booming as if the very words held power. "I have waited for eons for this moment. The bloodlines you carry are the key to my return. I will rise, and you will kneel." Superman's expression hardened, his fists clenching. "Who is this?" Iron Man analyzed the hologram, his brow furrowed. "He's an alien warlord. His presence in our galaxy is ancient, and he's linked to something worse, something connected to all of us." "What do you mean?" Thor asked, his voice low. Iron Man paused, his mind racing. "I'm not entirely sure yet, but the energy signatures, they align with ancient Kryptonian technology, and there's more. The weapons used in this war, they're tied to Earth as well. Whoever Thanos is, he's been watching us." Suddenly, the orb flared again, casting the chamber in an eerie light. "Thanos is no mere conqueror," it continued, "but the harbinger of the ascension. And you, my descendants, will be my chosen warriors or my greatest enemies." The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving them in silence. Descendants? Chosen warriors? Superman's voice was tinged with confusion. What is he talking about? Thor stepped forward, his hand gripping Mjolnir tightly. "This is no ordinary enemy. We need to stop him before he unleashes whatever plan he has on the universe." But as they prepared to leave the chamber, the ground shook beneath them, and a wave of energy surged through the tunnels. Iron Man's HUD went crazy as he tried to stabilize the readings. Something had changed. The signal was no longer just a warning, it was a call to arms. And as they ascended back to the surface, they realized they were no longer just protecting Earth. They were standing at the precipice of a much bigger conflict, one that would stretch across galaxies and forever change the fate of not just Earth, but the entire multiverse. Unraveling the prophecy. The sun barely pierced the clouds that blanketed the horizon over Avengers Tower, casting long shadows over the city. Inside the high-tech command center, the team gathered around a holographic table, each hero deep in thought. Superman stood with his arms crossed. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the image of a glowing orb they'd retrieved from the alien outpost. "This Thanos, he knows too much," Superman said, breaking the silence. "How could he know about us? About our bloodlines?" Iron Man's fingers flew over the holographic console, pulling up ancient records on Thanos. "There's something strange here. This guy, he's not just a warlord. He's a general who led a galactic conquest centuries ago. His empire spanned across galaxies, but then everything just stopped. No one knows why. All records of his existence went dark." Thor's voice rumbled as he stepped forward. "A dark past indeed. But what does he want with us?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Tony said, frustration creeping into his voice. "But whatever it is, it's bigger than just a war. He's planning something tied to the fabric of the multiverse itself." Superman glanced at the table, his face thoughtful. The orb mentioned a prophecy. Maybe that's the key. "You're right," Tony agreed. "This whole thing isn't just about Earth. We've been dragged into a cosmic game, and I don't think we're the only players." Just then, a sharp alarm blared across the room. A message had just been intercepted, a signal from deep space. As Tony quickly scanned it, his eyes widened. "It's coming from a fleet of ships. Huge ships, more advanced than anything we've seen before." "Thanos," Thor said under his breath, his eyes narrowing. "He's not wasting any time." "We need to move," Superman said, his voice like thunder. "We don't know what we're dealing with yet, but it's clear that Thanos is making his move. And he's not just coming for Earth." With no time to waste, The heroes suited up and headed for the Quinjet. The sleek black aircraft shot through the sky, heading for the coordinates Tony had tracked. The journey was brief but tense, each hero lost in their own thoughts, wondering what they would face on the other side. The fleet of alien ships hovered in the sky above a vast, barren desert. As the Quinjet approached, the enormity of the ships became apparent. Their hulls glowed with an energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the very stars. The ships didn't just look alien, they felt ancient, as if they had been drifting through the cosmos for millennia. "Looks like we're about to crash a party," Wolverine said, his claws already popping out in anticipation. The Quinjet touched down in a clearing just outside the alien fleet, and the team quickly disembarked, their eyes scanning the landscape for any signs of life. The air was thick with tension as they approached a massive structure that seemed to emerge from the desert itself, an enormous pyramid-like building towering above them. "It's a temple," Tony said, his voice betraying a hint of unease. "A temple to Thanos. This is no ordinary alien structure. This is where he's hiding, or where he's preparing to unleash something big." Superman narrowed his eyes. "I don't like this. The energy I'm sensing from inside, it's unlike anything we've encountered." They moved cautiously, entering the temple's vast corridors. The walls were covered with the same symbols they had seen in the archives, signs of an ancient war, of powers beyond imagination. As they moved deeper into the heart of the structure, they encountered more holographic projections, this time depicting a battle of epic proportions. Thanos led an army of ruthless warriors against an alliance of ancient civilizations, beings of immense power, some of whom looked strikingly similar to the heroes themselves. "This is a war, but it's a war between us," Superman whispered, piecing together the fragments of the images. "Our bloodlines. We're connected to this war." Thor gripped his hammer tighter. This is no ordinary prophecy. Thanos wasn't just conquering worlds. He was waging a war for something much more powerful, control over the multiverse itself. They arrived at a massive chamber at the center of the temple. In the center, a massive crystal pulsed with energy, casting an eerie glow across the room. As they stepped forward, a voice echoed through the chamber. "You are too late," Thanos' voice boomed, resonating with power. "The ascension is inevitable. You cannot stop it." The heroes spun around, looking for the source of the voice, but it was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the crystal at the center of the room began to hum with a low, menacing tone. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet cracked open, and alien soldiers began to rise from the cracks, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "We've got company," Wolverine growled, already leaping into action. His claws sliced through the first wave of enemies, but the soldiers kept coming, an endless sea of them. "Iron Man, Thor, deal with the enemies. Superman, I need you to find a way to shut down that crystal." Tony shouted. Superman flew toward the crystal, his heat vision firing in an attempt to destroy it. But as the beam hit, the crystal absorbed the energy, growing brighter and stronger. The chamber trembled, as if the very core of the universe was at risk of being torn apart. Thor swung Mjolnir with devastating force, shattering the first wave of alien soldiers, but the numbers kept growing. "These soldiers, they're not alive," he said, realizing the grim truth. "They're constructs, beings of pure energy." Iron Man blasted through the horde with his repulsor rays, but even his advanced weaponry seemed ineffective against the endless stream of enemies. The heroes were being overwhelmed, their every move countered by the alien forces. "We need to shut that crystal down, or we're done for," Tony yelled. Superman flew toward the crystal once more, this time using his freeze breath to encase it in ice. The effect was immediate, but only temporary. The ice cracked under the pressure of the crystal's energy, and it began to pulse again, more powerfully than before. A sudden realization hit Tony as he scanned the crystal's energy signatures. "It's drawing power from the multiverse itself. We have to destroy it, or else it will collapse everything. Every reality, every dimension." As the heroes fought valiantly, the battle raged on. They were fighting against more than just Thanos' army. They were fighting against time itself, the fabric of a multiverse tearing apart around them. And the only way to win was to stop Thanos' plan before it was too late. But the question remained, how could they defeat an enemy who was connected to the very essence of the multiverse? The unraveling truth. The battle inside the temple had grown fiercer. Superman, Thor, and Iron Man were locked in a desperate struggle against Thanos' army of energy constructs, their attacks seemingly having little effect. The warriors, born of pure energy, didn't bleed or break. They simply reformed and came back stronger. Wolverine, his claws cutting through the mass of enemies with ruthless precision, was starting to tire. His healing factor, normally a gift, was struggling to keep up with the constant barrage. "These things don't stop coming," he grunted, slashing through yet another soldier that regenerated in an instant. "Keep them occupied," Tony barked, his voice laced with urgency. "We need time, just a few minutes." But the seconds were slipping away, and every second they spent fighting in the chamber only seemed to draw them further into Thanos' trap. The crystal at the center of the room continued to pulse with energy, and the air crackled with an unnatural hum. The very ground beneath them felt unstable, like reality itself was bending under the immense pressure. Thor swung Mjolnir with enough force to send a shockwave through the room, knocking a dozen soldiers back. But they reformed, rising from the cracks in the ground like phoenixes from ashes. "There must be a way to shut it down," Thor shouted, his frustration growing. "We can't outfight them forever," Iron Man said, his suit now overheating as it struggled to keep up with the intensity of the battle. "There's got to be a weak point, something." Superman hovered near the crystal, his blue eyes scanning it intensely. He had already tried everything, heat vision, freeze breath, even brute force, but none of it seemed to have any effect. The crystal absorbed it all, growing stronger with every attempt. "I think I've figured it out," Superman said, his voice suddenly sharp with realization. "This crystal, it's not just a power source. It's a conduit. It's linking the energy from the multiverse to this dimension." "Wait, you're saying it's feeding off the entire multiverse?" Tony asked, his voice incredulous. Superman nodded. "Yes. It's a bridge, a tether between our universe and every other reality. Thanos is using this crystal to draw power from every possible timeline, and the more energy it draws, the stronger he becomes." Iron Man's eyes widened as the full weight of Superman's words sank in. "So if we don't shut this down, the entire multiverse is going to collapse." "Exactly," Superman said. "And Thanos is using that energy to fuel his army, making them virtually unstoppable." Thor gritted his teeth. "Then we have to destroy it, no matter the cost." The team regrouped quickly, each hero battling not just for survival, but for the fate of every reality. With the pressure mounting, time was running out. As they continued to fight off wave after wave of alien soldiers, Iron Man dove into his suit's database, accessing every available tool he had at his disposal. "I'm trying to isolate the energy signature. There has to be a way to overload it, to disrupt the link. If we cut the crystal off from the multiverse, maybe it will destabilize and collapse in on itself." Superman kept a vigilant eye on the crystal, his fists clenched. "We need a plan, and we need it fast." Wolverine, now breathing heavily but still determined, looked over at the glowing orb. "If we hit it all at once, maybe we can destroy it, just like we did with the other alien tech we've taken down before." Thor nodded. "A concentrated strike. If we all channel our power together, we might have a chance." Iron Man took a moment to analyze the crystal one last time, his eyes narrowing as he did the calculations in his mind. "I can use the suit to amplify your attacks. I'll get in close and provide the energy surge needed to destabilize it. But I need you all to hit it at the same time." Superman stepped forward, his jaw set in determination. "We'll need to be coordinated. Thor, you'll bring the thunder. Wolverine, we need your claws to cut through the core. Iron Man, you'll have to provide the final push. I'll focus on holding off the enemies while you guys make your move." With a unified battle cry, the heroes launched into action. Iron Man soared above the temple, his suit glowing brightly as he prepared to channel the energy. Thor raised Mjolnir high, summoning the storm with a roar that shook the walls. Wolverine's claws flashed as he sprinted toward the crystal, his movements swift and precise. And then, with a single nod from Superman, they struck. Thor's hammer collided with the crystal first, sending a bolt of lightning cascading through the temple. Iron Man followed immediately, firing a concentrated blast of energy from his suit that hit the crystal at its weakest point. Wolverine slashed through the energy shield surrounding the crystal with his claws, creating a crack in its surface. Finally, Superman unleashed his heat vision, focusing it like a laser on the crystal's core. For a brief moment, the crystal resisted, its power surging in a final, desperate attempt to maintain its grip on the multiverse. The entire chamber shook, and a loud, deafening hum filled the air. But then, with a cataclysmic explosion of light and energy, the crystal shattered. The force of the blast knocked the heroes off their feet, sending them sprawling across the ground. The alien soldiers, their power source cut off, collapsed into nothingness, their forms dissipating into the air like smoke. For a moment, there was silence, a silence so profound that it felt like the world had stopped moving. But as the dust settled, the heroes slowly rose, battered but victorious. Superman was the first to speak. "We did it, but it's not over," he said, his eyes scanning the horizon. This battle was just the beginning. The team exchanged worried glances. The crystal had been destroyed, but they knew Thanos would be back, stronger than ever. The war for the multiverse had only just begun, and as they made their way back to the Quinjet, one thought lingered in their minds. The true fight was yet to come. The siege of the multiverse. The sky above Earth shimmered with an eerie glow, as if the very fabric of reality itself was warping. The Quinjet shot through the atmosphere, its engines roaring with power as the team raced toward the next stage of their mission. They had destroyed the crystal, but that had only been a temporary victory. The true battle was only just beginning. Superman sat in silence, staring out of the cockpit's window, his mind heavy with the burden of what they had just done. The crystal was gone, but Thanos was still out there. And now, without the energy source, he would be even more dangerous. The heroes had just scratched the surface of the war they were about to face. "Talk to me, Superman," Tony Stark said, breaking the silence. "What's going through that head of yours?" Superman's gaze never wavered from the horizon. "Thanos is no ordinary enemy. We've faced threats before, but he's not just a conqueror. He's a harbinger. That crystal was only a link to his true power. Now we've given him a reason to come after us and the multiverse." Iron Man furrowed his brow. "You think he's going to come for Earth next?" "I think he's already here," Superman replied. "And if we don't stop him, he'll tear through every reality to get what he wants." Thor tightened his grip on Mjolnir, the weight of the situation sinking in. "Then let us not waste time. The longer we delay, the stronger Thanos becomes." As the Quinjet made its descent toward the heart of the conflict, the heroes were greeted by a chilling sight. Massive rifts had begun to appear in the sky, jagged cracks in the very fabric of the multiverse. The rifts pulsed with an ominous glow, and through them, the team could see flashes of other realities. Some were dying worlds, others seemed frozen in time, and a few were completely alien, their landscapes unlike anything they had ever seen. "Those rifts, they're openings to other universes," Tony said, analyzing the energy readings on his suit's HUD. "Thanos is ripping through dimensions." "I knew it," Superman muttered. The crystal wasn't just about power. It was a key to accessing the multiverse. And now he's using those rifts to tear apart everything. "We need to close them," Thor said, his voice steady. "If we don't, every reality will fall." The Quinjet landed in the heart of the city, now a battlefield. The streets were littered with debris, the air heavy with the scent of destruction. Alien warriors, the same energy constructs from the temple, were clashing with Earth's remaining defenders. The Avengers had arrived just in time to witness Thanos' assault on the very soul of the multiverse. The team disembarked, immediately engaging in combat. Superman flew into the heart of the enemy lines, his fists breaking through the energy constructs like a force of nature. Thor summoned the storm, Mjolnir crackling with lightning as he unleashed powerful strikes that sent the enemy reeling. Iron Man's repulsors fired with deadly precision, cutting down waves of enemies, while his AI systems worked to locate the source of the rifts. I've pinpointed the main rift generator. It's located in the center of the city. We need to destroy it, or the rifts will keep opening. We'll cover you, Wolverine said, slashing through enemies with his claws. Get to it, Stark. Iron Man nodded and sprinted toward the source, his suit firing repulsor blasts to clear his path. Superman, Thor, and Wolverine followed closely, cutting down anyone who dared to stand in their way. The enemy forces seemed endless, each more determined than the last. The team was pushing forward, but it was clear that Thanos had prepared for this moment. The rifts weren't just a weapon, they were his battlefield. As Iron Man reached the rift generator, he began to analyze the structure, looking for a weakness. The generator was enormous, towering over the city like a twisted monolith. It pulsed with the same energy that powered the crystal they had destroyed, but now it was feeding directly into the rifts, each one growing larger with every passing second. I can't shut it down from the outside, Tony called over his comms. I need to get inside and access the core. Thor, still locked in battle with a swarm of energy warriors, glanced over. I'll buy you time. With a mighty roar, Thor swung Mjolnir, sending a wave of lightning through the rift generator's energy field. The explosion knocked back dozens of enemies, but the generator remained intact. We don't have much time, Stark, Superman warned, his voice urgent. If we don't close these rifts, Thanos will unleash his army across every universe. We have to stop him now. I'm on it, Tony said, activating his thrusters to move closer to the rift generator's core. As he flew, he fired a volley of missiles, distracting the incoming soldiers and buying himself precious moments. The core of the generator hummed with an almost malevolent energy as Tony zeroed in on its weak points. Just as he reached the core, the ground beneath him trembled, and a massive rift opened right in front of him. From it emerged Thanos himself, his dark figure towering over the battlefield. His eyes glowed with the power of countless realities, his very presence radiating an overwhelming force. I warned you, Thanos boomed, his voice reverberating across the city. The ascension is inevitable. The multiverse will bend to my will. Iron Man's heart pounded in his chest as he looked up at the villain. This was it. There was no turning back now. But the heroes had already made their choice. They had come too far to fail. The fate of the multiverse was in their hands, and they were not going to let Thanos have it without one last fight. With one final push, Iron Man activated the suit's power to overload the rift generator's core. The explosion was blinding, sending shockwaves through the city and collapsing the rifts one by one. But as Thanos screamed in fury, it was clear that this war was far from over. The heroes stood tall, ready for whatever was to come next, because they knew one thing for sure: the multiverse would never be the same again. The final convergence. The world shook as the final rift closed. Iron Man hovered above the smoldering ruins of the rift generator, his suit's energy systems still pulsing from the intense overload. Below him, the battlefield was eerily quiet, but only for a moment. The destruction was far from over, and they could feel it. Thanos, still standing tall amidst the chaos, was no ordinary foe. His body crackled with raw dimensional energy, a form of power that defied the laws of nature. His eyes glowed with fury, burning with the desire to reshape the multiverse to his will. The explosion had only slowed him, but he was far from finished. You think you've won? Thanos boomed, his voice resonating with cosmic authority. You've sealed the rifts, but you've only delayed the inevitable. The ascension is coming, and nothing can stop it. Superman, his cape whipping in the wind, flew toward the villain with incredible speed, his eyes locked onto Thanos. The only thing coming, Thanos, is your end. Thor raised Mjolnir, a crackling bolt of lightning dancing along its length as he prepared to strike. You are not a god, Thanos. You are a parasite feeding on the destruction of worlds. Iron Man landed beside them, his suit flickering from the damage, but still operational. I'll shut you down, one way or another. Thanos sneered, his hands crackling with dimensional energy. With a sudden wave of his hand, He sent out an energy pulse that sent the heroes staggering back, their bodies pushed to the ground by the sheer force of it. "You cannot defeat me with mere power." Thanos roared, his voice filled with disdain. "I am the convergence of every universe, every timeline. I am the next stage of evolution." As the energy surged around him, the very sky seemed to fracture, revealing glimpses of countless other realities, each one twisted by Thanos' influence. The ground beneath them cracked open, revealing churning, glowing cracks that seemed to pull in the light, darkening everything they touched. "We've got to stop him before this becomes a war of annihilation," Superman said, gritting his teeth. "If we don't destroy him now, he'll use this energy to merge everything into his own vision, a vision where we don't exist. Then we destroy him together," Thor said, his voice booming with resolve. Now, with a unified shout, the team launched themselves at Thanos, the air around them crackling with power. Superman struck first, his heat vision searing through the air, but Thanos simply absorbed the attack, his form shifting and distorting as if made of energy itself. "I'll never be your tool," Thanos yelled, his voice distorted by the raw power within him. With a snap of his fingers, the heroes were thrown backward, their bodies slamming into the ground like ragdolls. The energy rift deepened, consuming more and more of the environment, as the multiverse itself seemed to writhe in agony. Tony Stark gritted his teeth. "He's using our own energy against us. If we don't stop him from manipulating the rifts, we'll all be lost." "I'm not going to let that happen," Superman shouted, his fists clenched as he rose from the ground. "Thor, Wolverine, we need to take him down. Now." Thor nodded. "I will strike him where he stands." "Leave the energy drain to me," Iron Man said. "I've got a plan to cut off his access to the multiverse." Without hesitation, the three heroes charged forward again, each of them unleashing their might. Superman flew toward Thanos with all the power he could muster, his fists glowing with the heat of 1,000 suns. Thor raised Mjolnir high, summoning an overwhelming storm that tore through the air. Wolverine, his claws unsheathed, darted in to strike from unexpected angles, relentless and ferocious. But Thanos was no ordinary foe. He deflected their blows with ease, his form flickering and twisting in ways that defied the laws of physics. The energy radiating from him intensified, creating shockwaves that pushed the heroes back. Iron Man, hovering high above, fired a concentrated energy pulse from his suit, targeting the core of Thanos' dimensional form. Now Superman. With a roar, Superman launched himself into the heart of Thanos' energy, delivering a blow with the full force of his Kryptonian strength. The impact was like a thunderclap, and for a moment, Thanos' form flickered. His concentration wavered as the rift began to collapse. "Your ascension ends here," Thor shouted, swinging Mjolnir down upon Thanos, its lightning-infused power striking like a celestial hammer. With a final desperate cry, Thanos' energy form exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The rift shattered, their hold on the multiverse broken, and the echoes of the countless realities that Thanos had attempted to merge faded into nothingness. The heroes fell to their knees, exhausted but victorious. The sky cleared, the air grew still, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the world felt peaceful. But as the dust settled, they knew the battle was not without its cost. The multiverse was still fragile, and though Thanos had been defeated, the scars of his invasion would remain. The heroes exchanged weary glances, the weight of their responsibility pressing upon them. "We've won," Superman said quietly, his voice full of both relief and sorrow. "But the battle for the multiverse isn't over." "Not yet." Thor's voice was full of quiet determination. "We will be ready for whatever comes next." Iron Man, still scanning the remnants of the battlefield, added, "This is only the beginning. But we've proven something today. The multiverse might be vast, but we'll fight to protect it, no matter the cost." And as they looked out over the world they had saved, one thing was clear. The heroes' fight had just begun. But, together, they would face whatever came next. And for the multiverse, that was enough. The end.